In this video, we'll learn how to animate effects with keyframes in Premiere Pro. So I've got a little demo project set up here, and my goal is to use keyframes to get sort of a zoom in effect on this clip where we increase the scale and more of the image takes up the frame. To define what keyframes are, we need to back up a little bit and talk about how Premiere Pro handles animation. So in Premiere, we think of animation as the changing of an effect's properties over time. And a keyframe is something that helps us to mark the value of an effect property at a specific time in our sequence. To get some sort of change or animation happening, we need at least two keyframes, a beginning state and an ending state. And in between those, Premiere Pro will interpolate changes between the keyframes of whatever effect property we're animating. So let's get started here with our demo project and go ahead and add some keyframes so that we can animate the scale property of this clip. So I've already selected the clip in my timeline. Let's go ahead up into the Effect Controls panel. And before I do anything, I'm going to toggle the timeline view by clicking this Show Hide Timeline View button here. It looks like a little dotted triangle in the upper right of the Effect Controls panel. So this is going to give us sort of a zoomed in preview of our timeline showing just the clip we're selecting. So you could think of this as looking at just this part of our overall timeline, and this is really helpful when you have lots of different layers. So I can adjust the playhead here, and you can see it matches with the position in the timeline panel as well as the program monitor. So what I want to do here is get my playhead to the point in my clip where I'd like the effect to start. So in my case, that's right at the beginning of the clip. I want this to start zooming in immediately as we see it on screen. Then let's go ahead and find the effect property that we'd like to animate. So in this case, the one I want to work with is scale. I'll go ahead and click the toggle animation button next to that property. It's the one that looks like a stopwatch. So it's going to do a couple things. First, it's going to tell Premiere that scale property for our selected clip is now animatable. It's also going to set a keyframe wherever that playhead was. So that's marking at this point in time in our sequence, the scale value is 121%. Next, I need to change the position of the playhead. And I want to drag this over to the right to wherever I'd like the animation to stop. And in this case, it's right at the end of the clip. Now all I need to do is change the value of that property that we're animating. And I can do that just by single clicking and typing in. Let's say we want this to go up to 200%. Now you can see once I change that property, Premiere Pro automatically creates a second keyframe. And remember, we always need at least two keyframes to animate something. We need a starting value and an ending value. And in between, Premiere is going to interpolate all of the intermediate values. So you can see if I scrub this back and forth, now our clip is scaling up, starting at 120%. And as we hit play, we're moving on up linearly until we get to 200%. Now, once we have our keyframes set up, we can make some small adjustments to them if we need to. If we need to select a keyframe, we can just click on it with the selection tool. We can select multiples by shift clicking. And if we wanted to get rid of those keyframes, we could just hit delete on the keyboard. We could also untoggle animation. So if we click this button again, that's going to delete all of our keyframes. So don't do that by accident. Now we can also move keyframes along our timeline after we've made them. And that's really cool because that means we can change the pacing or the timing of our animation. So if I wanted this scale animation to happen more quickly, I could simply move those keyframes closer together. So probably I would grab this one on the end and scooch it closer to our beginning keyframe. Now when we play this back, you can see we are scaling up a little bit more quickly. Likewise, if I wanted the change to happen more slowly, I could move the keyframes farther apart from one another. So adjusting the spacing between keyframes is how we edit the timing. We can also adjust the value of each keyframe by aligning the playhead with it. So I can do that a couple different ways. I can click and drag and hold down Shift on the keyboard. And as I get near the point in the sequence where a keyframe exists, I'll snap right to it. I can also use this go to previous keyframe or go to next keyframe button to jump back and forth between keyframes. So now that I'm aligned with this first keyframe, I can change that starting value if I want to. So let's say we actually want it to start at 100% instead of 120. So I'll just drop that down, and you can see now we're starting a little bit smaller, scaling up to 200%. It's really important when you're trying to adjust keyframe values that you are perfectly aligned with the keyframe. So if we back off just a frame or two and make changes to that value, we're actually going to be creating additional keyframes, and oftentimes that's not what we want to do. So I'll go ahead and click undo to get rid of that change. The really cool thing about keyframe animation is that this simple technique of just creating a beginning state and an ending state can be applied to any of these properties that we have control over in the Effect Controls panel.